Hi, I'm Dr. Hamlin, and today we're going to talk about type 1 diabetes and counting carbs, specifically the net carbs piece. I got a great question about net carbs. How should we consider them into our insulin dosing calculations, if at all? And this is a great question. I remember wondering this when I was learning about nutrition and figuring out how to count carbs, and it can be a little bit confusing. Really, I think to kind of give you an overview, understanding what net carbs are helps you decide whether or not it would be important for you. But in my experience living with type 1 diabetes for about 20 years, I've never worried about net carbs. I've never used them. I've always gone with the total carb count on the nutrition label, and that has worked for me personally. My experience aligns with what a lot of diabetes educators and endocrinologists would recommend, including the American Diabetes Association. So let's go over the details and break this down for further understanding, and it might give you confidence moving forward once you understand the difference. So total carbs are the total amount of carbohydrates in the food, so including sugar, fiber, and starches. Now, sugar and starches absolutely impact our blood glucose. There's no question. Fiber, it depends on the type of fiber, how much, and what it can do. So we have two types of fiber. One is soluble fiber and the other is insoluble. Insoluble basically means we don't break it down. It acts like a brush, goes through our intestines and pushes things along. Soluble fiber, however, is something that can slow our digestion slightly and impact the way that we're absorbing carbs. So it can have a little bit more of an impact on blood glucose levels. Definitely varies between the meal, the person. There's a lot of variability there. So net carbs is just the total amount of carbs minus the fiber and minus some sugar alcohols. And the sugar alcohols piece is where it gets a little bit confusing. Sugar alcohols, for example, erythritol, doesn't typically impact blood glucose levels very much. However, maltitol, a different type, can. And so if we're routinely subtracting all of the sugar alcohols from our total carb count, some impact glucose, some don't, it can make things really complicated and make it a little bit more nuanced and tedious. Some people like to subtract the fiber from their total carbs if the amount of fiber is greater than 5 grams for the serving that you're eating. And this is talked about on the American Diabetes Association website, and I'll link some of this below in case you're interested in further reading. Now, let's say I'm going to eat something that's 30 grams of carbs and it has 10 grams of fiber. Doesn't usually tell you if it's soluble or insoluble fiber, so you may need to know a lot more about nutrition to understand the differences there. But 10 grams of fiber divided by 2 is 5 grams of fiber. So I may take my 30 grams of carbohydrates, my total carbohydrates, subtract half of the fiber content, so 5 grams, and get 25 grams. Now, some people do this. I typically have not found this to be helpful for me. I don't mess with that. I haven't noticed any patterns that have been negative because of it. However, I can see with some of the more processed foods, let's say a protein bar that is really high in fiber that you're eating pretty routinely, you may notice that you can subtract some of the carbs out to account for the fiber. So it's worth considering, but not something, again, that I've found to be useful or really talk to any friends or patients that I can think of that have noticed a big difference here. Now, it's also important to understand that when we are experimenting, everybody's body is different. There are different conditions that may have a different approach to this question. If someone has gastroparesis associated with their diabetes, that might change the way that we look at this. So understand that what we're talking about today is a general overview for the differences between total carbs and net carbs, but doesn't apply to everyone individually. The best way would be to talk to your diabetes educator, your endocrinologist, your primary care physician, whoever it is that you're seeing for your diabetes care. Again, I'll have links in the bottom for further resources on this area. I also have a link to my website, and if you're interested in learning more about hands-on diabetes mindset shifts, so learning to work through diabetes burnout, see your diabetes more positively, or get through a hard chapter with diabetes, I've got something coming out that's a tangible walk through, what to do when, as far as looking to shift that mindset. So if you're interested in that, you can go and sign up for the wait list, and you will be the first to know when that is available to you guys. Thanks so much for watching today. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. That makes a big difference to me.